Last thing, I want to touch on, because we talked about it at the beginning, was incident response, and this of course turns into incident response plans and retainers, or retainers and then plans. So seeing this from supply chain, where people are now being asked, what is your IR plan? Do you have one documented? Or maybe it's a cyber insurance. Do you have an IR plan in place? Do you have a retainer in place? These sorts of things. If somebody's being pushed into it or thinking about it, well, would you, how do you explain it?
Most people will never ever need them. But the ones that do are really appreciative that they're there, because it really provided some immediate and immense value. So from a cybersecurity perspective, it's kind of the same thing, that if you don't have an incident response team or a retainer or a defined response plan, until you have an incident, you won't really know the impact of that. And unless if there's some other driving requirements that are forcing you to have it, you may just overlook that and not have it, which will then be catastrophic at the moment that you need it the most. So a retainer is a statement of work or contract that's in place with a appropriate firm like AT&T Cybersecurity that gives you access to those incident responders on a moment's notice when you actually need the help. Difference between your IT team, even your SOC services, your MDR services and all that is skill sets. MDR services will typically provide managed detect and response services utilizing the tools that they're furnishing to you as a part of the service. It could be a SIM, it could be an EDR tool. They're not going to actually VPN into your environment and log into your Windows workstation that's compromised and then do forensics and response and manually go through and dissect whatever needs to take place to go eradicate the threat. So that's what the incident response retainer provides you. It gives you resources that can then go off and do that. And as a part of our retainers, we're going to have an onboarding phase, just like any of our services, where we're going to go through and document access, get provision credentials specifically for us so that they can be audited, and then understand the rotation policies for the access control methods that we're being furnished. We're going to get an understanding of the environment, personnel, establish the communication protocol for the customer to the incident response team for their MDR service to us. All that gets flushed out. It's not really a plan because that's specifically for utilizing our service. Your incident response plan is the customer's incident response plan of what they actually do if an incident takes place, who gets notified, who's going to be involved from legal, what C-levels, VPs, boards have to be notified of what's taking place, who makes the final decision on pay or not pay that ransom. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be kind of documented and thought through to be able to then make sure that all of these things are working effectively when that time comes.
All things that you want to have in place before you have a fire.
Absolutely.
Pretty much, right? We're doing this with our kids right now, of like, get out of the house, where do you go? Then call 911. Just what are the steps? Do you practice it? Does everybody know what their role is? Like really basic things, like it's your job to get the dog or not, like who's responsible for getting the dog, Also interestingly is now, depending on what kind of business you're in, you can have very specific legal requirements, not in terms of like your own internal, like get your legal team involved, but you could have legal requirements to, state or to federal governments of what you're required to do and provide and capture and track and and maintain, that you probably don't want to find out after the fact that you were supposed to do. It's better to have an awareness of that before you have to maintain whatever it is that you have to maintain. Also, your cyber insurance policy might require you to have certain things in place, right? Or conduct certain actions or discover and figure out certain things in order to get a check from your insurance company after the fact. I mean, you don't want to go to ask them for money and then find out it's like, oh, you didn't do step 3 and so therefore we're not paying you because you just invalidated your insurance policy. It's so complicated, Elia. Why is this so complicated?
Because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot that other people would like to have that they don't, and they can quickly monetize or disrupt or impact, just depending on the threat actors. There's a lot of reasons as to why. Since there's a potential of something that they're looking for, you have to be ready to defend what you have.